Welcome back. This is Shah. A friend of mine sent me a short video from TikTok from a user called Life and Scars 1. The video is called How to Avoid Child Support. So he gives us some tips and tricks on how to avoid getting caught up in the system. I used to work as a child support officer for 5 years in California. So we're going to run through this video together and I'm going to break down what he's saying.
How to avoid child support. Well, one thing you can do is fake your death. Over 500,000 people go missing every single year. Why can't it be you?
If a child support order hasn't been established against you, I guess you could fake your death. And there's a chance that if they do believe that you're dead, maybe they'll close the case down and stop looking for you. But generally, when I worked as a caseworker, we would be looking for hard evidence that somebody passed away, whether it was a death certificate or, some kind of evidence to the fact. Usually we'd need to see the death certificate and then we'd be like, okay, let's get this case closed. But if there's already an order against you and let's say you fake your death, you better be prepared to live a life underground because, if you pop up again, the child support system is very vast in the sense that I had access to so many databases. And if anything, your social security number trips anything, we're going to see that if you get a job somewhere in a completely different state, that's going to port over to us through National Directory of New Hires or Employment Development Department databases, and amongst other things. Now, if the case is closed, then we might not actually be looking. So it's possible you can get away, but, we'll see about that.
Or leave the country. But don't go to a place that fuck with the U.S. You need to go to Pakistan, North Korea, or Russia.
That's actually pretty funny because the way U.S. child support works is we have international agreements with certain countries, and we used to call that reciprocity. What that means is that we have international agreements where if someone has a child with someone out of the country, if the country has reciprocity with us, we can actually ask them to establish a child support order and collect from their end and send it back to us over here. But the thing is some countries don't have reciprocity. So one example of that would be Mexico. If we had a case open up and, the non-custodial parent went to Mexico, and we would generally close that case and we would tell mom, hey, if he comes back or you get any information, come back and we can reopen the case and try to get him. But other than that, Mexico was not going to get us the order. Pakistan's funny because, well, I'm from Pakistan, but Osama was hiding over there for a long time, before anybody found him. I don't know if people are going to come barking up your tree for a child support case if you're over there. So, hey, not terrible advice. I mean, especially if you haven't been served with paperwork yet. If you make it out of that country and it doesn't have reciprocity and they can't serve you, they can't get an order established.
Or go to prison. In my state, if you locked up for over 180 days, you don't owe that bitch shit.
Well, that's not entirely true. If you have an order established against you and you're paying monthly already, or you're being charged monthly, if you do go to jail, what happens is you will still owe that money in the past, but once the caseworker catches wind of it, they're going to file a motion to modify your child support amount to zero. So I had to do that a lot. I mean, if I saw that someone was going to be in jail, for us, I think it was generally over 90 days. We had access again to different systems that would let us see what the prisoners or the inmate situation was. And if they're going to be in there long term, we would get a motion filed to set it to zero for that time period. And then once they got out, we would then modify it back from zero to a monetary amount. So it doesn't mean you don't owe her anything because you're going to owe her the past amount. But it is kind of true that, if you are in jail, that order does get set to zero. Same thing if you're on cash aid. Same thing if you're on SSI with no other income. The order would get sent to court, modified to zero. And if there was no remaining balance, case closed.
Or hook your baby mama up with a pedophile and then tell CPS.
I guess that's a strategy. I mean, to get custody back, if anything.
Or take the lug nuts off of her car, and then when she crashed, you file neglect charges. Or get the kid locked up. If the government cares so much about child support, make them pay for that motherfucker while he in juvie.
You know, depending on the situation, I guess if the kid's locked up, then maybe there's nothing. But if the kid is in foster care or something like that, where basically welfare dollars are still going to the child, generally what we do in that situation is the case is still opened up against the parent who is paying, but then we're going to open up a second case and go after the other parent. Because now that the kid is not in either of the parents' custody, if the state is taking care of that child, we're going to have two child support cases open, one against the dad and one against the mom, and they're both going to be paying.
Or, as a last resort, get you a lighter and hold the button down so the fumes are coming out. Put a rubber band around the lighter so that the button stays down. Toss that shit in your baby mama tailpipe. And then when she start up the car, boom, you got full custody. Game is game.
Now, I would not support what he's recommending you to do there. Now, it is true that if the other party passes away or, you know, is deceased, if all the money on the case is owed to that person, the case will close down because there's no payee on the case anymore. But 65% of the cases, you know, in the caseload where I used to work at were aided cases. So what that means is the money was owed to the state. So we would still collect on that money because that money's owed to the state for the tax dollars being expended for the welfare. Now, just because the custodial party passes away doesn't mean child support ends, because what might happen, and this happened a lot, is that child would then probably go live with grandma, you know, or an aunt. And then the child support would be paid to them. They would become the new payee, at least in California where I was. So, you know, he's got some interesting tips and tricks here. You know, I don't know how effective they are. Going to jail might not be the best thing. Getting caught with a, you know, taking somebody out charge. It might just be better to pay child support at that point. So, yeah, if you're going to follow these tips and tricks, maybe do so with some caution and really make sure that is the plan for you. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and share this video. We'll see you on the next one.